Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Ali Corman, Justin Nielsen here with a breakdown of the action in today's session, where we saw a pretty strong bounce. But Justin, can we really feel better about the health of the market just yet?
Well, there's certainly a lot of inflation data out there that's kind of still a concern. Fed rates, nothing's really changed here, but you always have to be ready for a market that's ready to rally. So we'll take a look at a couple stocks that are setting up, starting with Raymond James Financial. We'll also take a look at Lululemon, which was one that you were on the conversation about today. And also we'll end with Marriott because a lot of the reopening plays were looking interesting.
All right, we will do that. But first, let's check out the major indexes. So the NASDAQ today up by about 2% by the close. The S&P 500 up 1.1%. The Dow up 1%. And the Russell 2000 up 2% here today. But we saw a gap down Monday and a downside reversal outside day on Tuesday. Again, we did have a big gain today here, Justin, but with where we're at in the NASDAQ right now, what do we need to see to start getting a little bit more confident in how things are going?
Well, as a starting point, I would like to see us get confidently above yesterday's highs. I'd also like to see us get back above that 50-day moving average line because, while we're under that line, that always looms as a line of potential resistance. And it just so happens that, if you look at kind of the lows of the previous week, you're right there, right around where the 50-day moving average line is too. So that's as kind of a starting point what I'd like to see. But more than anything, we need to see more of these stocks set up. Well, it's kind of been a little bit more of the old names, the oil, the materials, a lot of those that have been still showing the power, and those were the ones that were setting up. This last rally was really driven by some of the bottom fishing, and so unless those can tighten up in a way that is more enticing, it seems like it's back to the cyclical names. So it remains to be seen what stocks are going to be presenting themselves, because ultimately you're buying stocks, not an index all the time. So that you have to have merchandise to buy.
Exactly. Well, let's take a look at a couple of the other major indexes before we move on here. So here's a quick look at the S&P 500 back above its 50-day line today. Let's also take a look at the Dow here, hanging on right around its 50-day line as well, and the Russell 2000. So the IWM ETF small caps here, we did see coming right back up to its 50-day line. Are we going to see that as a level of resistance?
Right.
Only time will tell.
Yeah.
But
And
Justin,
just real quick
go
on
ahead.
the S&P 500, I wanted to just jump in and say on the S&P 500, we are back above that 50-day moving average line, but that 200-day moving average line is probably the level that I'm going to be watching there, because that also coincides with 4,500, a nice round number, if we can get back above there. And look, the S&P 500, it didn't pull back as much. It's been looking a little bit stronger, but there's still the levels that it has to cross as well.
No doubt. All right. Well, let's take a look at RJF, Raymond James Financial, an investment banker that gained some 3.2% today in above average volume. So a nice move for the stock, putting it above that 110 level.
Yeah, and so what we have here is a nice couple handle formation. There's a lot of the financials, a lot of the banks that have been looking very weak, but you have this whole other area, the investment bank brokers that have been looking very different. Insurance plays, those are also in finance. So you got to go with where the strength is. And if you just look at that relative strength line, we're not at new highs yet in the price, but you could easily see with a little bit more strength here, even just crossing that 114.10 buy point on the cup with handle, the traditional level, you could easily see this relative strength line get to new high ground in short order, and that would be before the price gets into new high ground. So that's one check mark that is really just a big thing for these leading stocks to often have their relative strength lines leading the price into new high ground. And you also have this break of a downtrend line in the handle, and that's something that's positive. It got support at its 50-day moving average line. We saw some volume come in on today's action, so that's a positive. So there's a lot of check marks that this has for it, and this was also a stock of the day. So for more information on that, check that article out. You can get to it right from the homepage.
Definitely. And you don't need to wait for that cup with handle breakout. With that break of the downtrend, volume there, healthy relative strength line. Looks like it was actionable here today.
We did put it
And
on Swing Trader. Yeah. So, and the
yeah,
idea is if you can get that early entry, and once it gets up to 114, hey, now you've got a little bit of cushion. You've got a couple percentage points of cushion, and that can really help you out if it starts to wiggle a little bit. Or if you're going to be
sure.
taking your profits quickly as a swing trade, you just are that much more profitable when it's time to take some shares off.
Most definitely. And another stock added to Swing Trader today, we got Lululemon. Man, Justin, it's been a while since we've talked about this one because it had a pretty steep correction from those highs in November, but a big move over the last couple of months and some compelling action here today, getting above that 200-day.
Well, it hasn't been that long since we've talked about Lululemon. We had it on Swing Trader just about a month ago, but as a short. So this is this
Yeah,
is this is
yeah,
how it's changed, right? And look,
yeah,
as this was coming up off the bottom, I'll tell you, I wasn't interested. I was watching it just to see what was
yeah.
powering the indexes higher, but I'm not going to be buying a stock off the bottom. But that was a lot of power that it showed. The earnings call, look, it had a strong move after earnings, but what I like is after that, it really tightened up. Now it's got my attention because after a big move down, a strong, powerful rally up right to its 200-day moving average line, it paused, and then yesterday we saw it try and get above there, reversed, but today it kind of got above there with power, and so that's what we were looking at. Initially, I was hesitant. We were on the call, deciding whether or not to put this on Swing Trader. The reason I was hesitant because it just seems like in an inflationary or potentially recessionary environment, why would people be going out to get the luxury brands? It seems like the Costco's and the Dollar Trees has been more where it's been at lately. But you brought up some really good points in that meeting, Allie, and so if anything goes wrong here, we blame you.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to say. It's
But
my
you
fault.
brought up some really good points about some of the programs that they have coming on in terms of some very deeply discounted merchandise based
Yeah.
on what was it, gently worn or what have you. So
Mhm.
there's some
Mhm.
interesting things going on there that and it was hard to ignore all of the things that were looking right about that chart. So we went ahead and gave this a flyer on Swing
Yeah.
Trader as well.
Yeah, they just launched a trade-in program yesterday, and so I think that that's a compelling new story there because there are other, Poshmark and eBay, and
Mhm.
hey, why not do it with your own brand?
Right.
So we'll see how that goes for them.
Yeah. And
And
it does
yeah,
definitely stick out because one of the things we were looking at, a lot of the members of the group, and we just weren't seeing much confirmation from others. So it wasn't until you brought up that fundamental piece of information that we saw, hey, maybe this is some way in which Lululemon is differentiating itself and you might be able to stick out.
Yeah, upcycling the clothing there, and it was about 40% off from some of the items that I looked at. So
Hmm.
I think they're expanding their market potentially because now I'm interested. Girl loves a good deal.
Okay.
All right, well, let's take a look at Marriott MAR reopening plays. Are they back? Is it going to stick this time? We've had some fits and starts, Justin, but the power here today pretty notable.
Yeah, so that's the big question. As you mentioned, there have been a lot of attempts here. Will this one stick? Certainly, one of the things that seem to be driving a lot of the reopening plays. Now, I mean, first of all, look, we've been watching these setups, and I was looking at SeaWorld yesterday. There were things that were looking strong on the reopening play, but certainly one of the drivers could have been the earnings in Delta Airlines. Very strong move that got Delta Airlines (DAL) back above its 200-day moving average line. That seemed to be something that was kind of trickling over into a lot of these other reopening plays. But Marriott had a very nice setup already. So you already had this cup with handle and a lot of power as this got back above its 50-day moving average line. I'll be honest, I was hesitating a little bit because we did look at this for Swing Trader. I was kind of looking at that area from last week, those lows that seemed like they were a support level that we broke below. And it also seemed like that was a resistance level if you went back a few weeks. So it just seemed like there was an important area right around 173, 174. And so when we were looking at it this morning, I decided to pass because I was just concerned that was going to be a resistance level. But it looks like we went right through it. And Marriott, I was hoping it was going to pause a little bit at that area and then break through, but it just looked like it climbed for the rest of the day. So that might be one I come to regret. But just wanted to kind of let people know some of the thought process that went into that. Again, that resistance level that was hitting was what gave me pause. But this is one that certainly looks strong, and it's a lot of other players in there that are also looking strong, so it's not alone. And Delta Airlines, the earnings, that's just a reminder that earnings season is coming, so be prepared.
Yes. Good point there, Justin. All right, well, we got to get you to a podcast.
Yes.
And by the looks of it, it seems like you and Arusha are going to be doing it in person today, kind of like a little farewell.
A final farewell to our
vibe going on
offices in
there.
Playa del Rey. So I've spent over half of my life here now. It's been 25 years in this building. So yeah, it's going to be a final farewell to this building. Next time I come to this building, it will be with a visitor's pass.
All right. Well, that's going to be another great episode. You guys are crushing it. So make sure you check out the podcast, investors.com/podcast. New episodes every Thursday. So keep an eye or an ear out for that tomorrow. All right, Justin. And thank you everyone for watching. We'll be back with more tomorrow on IBD Live to cap off this shortened trading week. As a reminder, the stock market is closed for Good Friday on Friday. But if you want your IBD content, you can get that through Barron's Live. Even though we won't have IBD Live or our Stock Market Today video, we are going to be doing Barron's Live, Ed and I. So make sure you pop on over there. And you can get all the details at barrons.com/live. We'll see you there, and we'll see you in the morning for IBD Live.